Because we're going to broaden out the discussion now. Here to discuss the showdown in Washington is Peter Henry, Dean of the Stern School of Business at New York University. But first, let's bring in Representative Marsha Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee. Ms. Blackburn, welcome back to CNBC. Good to have you with us.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll get to where things stand and all of the toing and froing in just a moment. But I want to ask you a different kind of question, and that is, as you and your colleagues in the House deliberate what to do, how much thought do you give to what's really happening and the stakes for individual Americans? For example, if the credit of the United States is downgraded, presumably stock markets will go down, presumably bond markets will go down, and this will take money right out of the pockets of everyday people. How much thought do you give to those individuals?
Oh, we give a tremendous amount of thought to that. I would say it's top of mind, and we're in constant communication with our constituents. I was looking at emails coming in from my constituents before I came over here. I'm doing a couple of coalition calls this afternoon. Last Friday evening I did a telephone town hall and had about 13,000 of my constituents on it. So constantly we're working with them, we're talking to them, we're very concerned about being here at the last minute and still trying to negotiate a deal. And I think it's fair to say that those of us in the House are tremendously disappointed that the Senate has not met us at the negotiating table, and we are hopeful that before we're out today that we will have them at the negotiating table. And not only will they work with us on the debt ceiling, but also on the continuing resolution and on the budget. The long-term spending issues have to be addressed, and you cannot continue kicking the can down the road.
I want to bring John Harwood back in and Peter in just a minute, but I don't want to not ask this question. Who's got the worst job in Washington, the coach of the Redskins, Mike Shanahan, or John Boehner?
Well, you know, I think that could be up for debate as to what you think is best and worst, but I have to tell you this. I really am just humbled that I can be here and be working to find a long-term solution to our nation's spending problems. We cannot continue borrowing $2 billion a day. We can't do it. We've got to find a way around this.
Everybody in the country would love to see a long-term solution, but it seems,
yes,
John Harwood, as though the debate right now is focused on short-term changes to Obamacare.
Well, right, and the real question is whether we can get over the finish line in the next couple of days. And I'd like to ask Congresswoman Blackburn, you know, there's been tremendous criticism of the approach that House Republicans have taken from your colleagues in the Senate, some in the House as well. I'd be interested in your view. Do you think that you in the House have taken the right strategy, and do you think it's worked out well for the Republican Party, for the House, and for the country?
Well, John, and that's something that's going to be debated for months and years. I will tell you this. We have continually sent over to the Senate budgets. We have sent continuing resolutions. As you well know, I wrote the delay or suspension of Obamacare for a year because I think it's a fairness issue, that individuals would be treated the same as businesses. And so I think that as we go through the next few months, you're going to see people come back and look at the fact that we in the House, with bipartisan support by and large, continued to send options to the Senate.
Just to follow up, your old colleague Sandy Burr in the Senate said this strategy was the dumbest idea I've ever heard. John Boehner said, made clear that it was not his strategy. Was it your strategy from the beginning?
No, my idea, what I brought to the table was that we needed, and we have to deal with the Obamacare funding issues in the continuing resolution. We've got two different components going on right now, the debt ceiling and the continuing resolution. And of course, many of us, as the Obamacare bill was signed into law and then the implementation began, we have worked on this nonstop, conducting oversight, looking at what the rollout was going to be, and now we're beginning and will hold next week the hearings on oversight of the rollout and the things that are not working well, reviewing what is taking place right now. So our approach has been in search of accountability, an accountable CR, accountable spending plans, and getting the long-term fiscal issues of the nation addressed, putting those on the table and finding a solution for it. We've got to do it.
Let me bring in Peter Henry of NYU. Peter, for either an observation, a question to the Congresswoman, or whatever.
My question, Congressman Blackburn, is there's a missing word from this conversation, which is prosperity. It seems as though the American people have elected Congress people like yourself to focus on prosperity, and we're in a weak recovery. The labor market participation is at an all-time low in the post-war period, and unemployment is only down because of that. Why are we not focusing on prosperity? Why are we focusing on these issues that are taking us to the brink and putting us in danger of a financial market calamity that would only undermine the labor market recovery, a weak one at that?
Right, and jobs in the economy, through all of this, jobs, economy, and the impact of Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. Those are the top three things that continue to come forward. And you're exactly right. Labor force participation rate is at an all-time low, and we are seeing part-time jobs increase. And I had an email today from a lady who spoke specifically to this very issue, because she's looking at all the dysfunction that is here in D.C. And bear in mind, there's plenty of blame to go around. And she is seeing all this dysfunction, and she is wondering why some employers, and NBC is a great example, you got a waiver, you're exempted out of Obamacare, but her employer is going to be faced with this,
but the issue
and therefore she had been, no, but see, she was moved to part-time. Right, she was moved to part-time work. Now, this is where it affects an individual's prosperity. She is earning less income. She is no longer provided health insurance because she was moved to part-time to come under that full-time employment number. So this is where they all meet, and this is why we as policymakers have to look at the impact of this law, because we are hearing specifically from people about how it is impacting their paycheck, their take-home pay, the benefits that they are offered, and their ability to have a job. I ran in the grocery store a few weeks ago. I ran into a woman who she and her husband now both have been moved to part-time status. So they are each working 2 jobs and are in search of health insurance because it was terminated from their employer. That is the real-world impact of what is taking place right now. And you're right. Prosperity is an enormous issue. People would love to go back to having an economy that is a growth economy, and my hope is that we can get this debt ceiling issue resolved, and we can get the long-term spending problems of the nation resolved so that we can put the focus on jobs, prosperity, jobs growth.
Are you prepared to go over the debt ceiling or the debt limit?
I am confident that we're going to get this issue resolved, and I am holding on to that optimism and confidence that we are going to solve this and that we will not go over the debt ceiling.
All right, Congressman Blackburn, thank you very much, as always, for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We appreciate your time. Peter, we'll see you back here a little bit later. John Harwood, thank you as well. Let's check in now with Mary Thompson for a market flash.